Hello, this is Frank. Let's talk about tonal centers today. You can literally move to any tonal center as long as you keep the musical journey logical and guide the listener. But how do we achieve that in an actual composition? Let's get into some tactics. Firstly, you can look at the circle of fifths and simply use the neighboring steps. Those are cadences that help you establish new tonal centers. You can almost jump around on the circle of fifths as long as you hit on the neighboring steps in your chord progression. Here's an example. B flat and F are neighboring steps on the circle of fifths, and so are G and D. Both form a temporary tonal center, and the bass line holds it all together by going from B flat to C and into the D note over the bar line. It feels like a natural scale tone line. This way, you can almost hide the change from one tonal center to the next. Secondly, we can move the tonal center chromatically, and that's another effective way to guide the listener. Here's what I mean. We come from a tonal center around D and move it up chromatically to the E flat. For transparency, my base of thinking over the B flat root was the octatonic scale. And you might know that the octatonic scale embraces 4 different root tones. If you want to learn more about the octatonic scale, please follow the link in the description box below. Why should we consider changing tonal centers in the first place? While there's nothing wrong with writing in a key, here are some points that you might want to take into consideration. Your work as a composer gets easier and faster because you can reuse some of your existing materials. It's also a win for your audience, as they want to hear repetition. This will make your composition stronger and more memorable. There are also technical reasons to move into specific tonal centers. Brass instruments, for example, sound great on flat keys like F, B flat, or E flat. And lastly, if you are a film composer, you must respect the hierarchy of the sound elements and move into empty areas of the frequency spectrum. Let's listen to an example before we dive into the details. Okay, let's jump right in. The introduction pretty much follows the octatonic scale over the A root tone. Then I move into this 4-bar section that I call the empty part because there is no melody or chord progression. I based all this on the Aeolian over A and added some chromatic alterations and leading tones later. Here's a chromatic change from A to B flat and back to A, where we hear the theme for the first time. we end part 1 on the E major triad and move into G minor, which goes to its neighboring step on the circle of fifths, the D. It's the switching back and forth between G and D that establishes the tonal center around D, and then you can always change your mode or scale. Here we move into the E flat via a chromatic step, then go to its neighboring partner and apply another chromatic step, and this all leads us to the empty part again. From this point forward, we don't hear any new material, but repetitions on new tonal centers. Here's the theme on C Aeolian, which leads to the tonal center around F by going back and forth between F and its neighbor on the circle of fifths, the B flat. After a few bars into the F, we return to the tonal center of D. Again, that's all material we've already heard. The ending focuses on G Dorian, another neighboring step of where we came from, and that's also the root of the final chord. You heard that all transitions sounded very fluent and natural, and that's because of those two techniques that we talked about in the beginning, neighboring steps and chromatic steps. With all that in mind, let's re-listen to the piece again. Many thanks for your time and your interest in becoming a better composer. Have a wonderful day and best always.